Today's story is Amy Loves Goodbyes. Amy loves goodbyes. This is Amy. Probably you think she's waving hello, but she's not, because you see, Amy loves goodbyes. It's something her mother and father, the milkman and the mailman, her friends, and of course, Mrs. Kosciuszko know very well that Amy loves goodbyes. Just 1 week in June was when it all began. On Sunday afternoon, Amy and her mother climbed the church steps. They heard the organ singing gaily from inside. "It's a wedding," Amy's mother said. "Here come the bride and groom." And everyone began to throw rice or little snips of colored paper called confetti. "It's for goodbye and good luck," her mother said. "Goodbye, good luck," cried Amy. "Oh, what fun! I think I like goodbyes." At the train station the very next Wednesday, Amy's Uncle Timothy was going away on a trip. "You're much too small to see me in the window of the train," Uncle Timothy said. "I'll buy you a red balloon. Tie it to your finger. Then I'll see it from the inside the train and I'll know you're standing at the bottom of the string." But Amy's father found a trainman's cart and she stood way up high. Suddenly, Amy felt as if she were moving backwards, because Uncle Timothy was far, far past her. But when she turned, her father hadn't moved at all. It was the train. Amy just had time to wave to Uncle Tim. Then more and more new faces moved by, one after the other, faster and faster. Amy waved and whoosh! There was only air. The train was gone. "It's magic," Amy cried. "I'm sure I like goodbyes." On Saturday morning, Amy stood on the deck of a big ship. Grandmother and grandfather were sailing away for 3 whole weeks' vacation. "I'll wave my red handkerchief as we move off," Amy's grandmother said. "See how long you can see it." "I have some rolls of colored paper, called streamers, in my pocket," said Grandpa. "I'll throw them from the rail. See if you can catch them." Soon there were 3 loud toots, and a man shouted, "All ashore that's going ashore!" Amy and her father ran down the gangplank. Grandpa threw his rolls of colored paper, and Amy's father caught them for her. "Hold on until the ship begins to move," he said. "See how long you can." Then there were 4 loud toots, and slowly, slowly, the big ship began to move. Amy held the streamers as tightly as she could, but soon they snapped and broke. The ship had sailed too far. So Amy watched her grandmother's red handkerchief and waved until it was a tiny speck, and then no more. "Oh my," Amy thought, "this is the very most fun of all. I know I love goodbyes." At home, next morning, Amy got up at 6:30 to watch from her window for the milkman. Soon he came, delivering the milk, and when he turned to go, Amy dropped a big handful of rice. "What? Snow in June?" he cried, and then raised his head. "Oh, hello, little girl up there, hello," he said. But Amy only shouted back, "Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye." At 10 o'clock, the postman came. Amy watched from behind a big tree until he left the mail and slowly walked away. Then she took some colored snips of paper from a bag and threw them. "Oh my, can it be raining colored rain?" the postman asked. Then he turned and saw Amy. "Good morning, little girl, good morning," he said. But Amy only cried, Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. That afternoon, Amy waited on her front stoop. When her friends came walking by, they raised their hands to say hello and maybe stop to play. But Amy only waved a handkerchief and shouted, "I can't come down now. I'm sailing away on a ship. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye." That night, Amy's mother and father went to a grown-ups party, so Mrs. Kosciuszko came to visit with Amy and keep her company. Amy lined up every chair in one long row and said, "This is a train, Mrs. Kosciuszko, and you must sit inside." Mrs. Kosciuszko did. She loved new games. But soon as she sat down, Amy walked slowly from the room. "Your train is leaving now," she said. "Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye." And every day, Amy played her game with the milkman, the mailman, her friends, and of course, Mrs. Kosciuszko, until they all got very tired and wished that Amy could play something else besides goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. Then one day, Amy's mother said, "Daddy and I must go on a little trip just for a few days, and you will stay here with Mrs. Kosciuszko." Amy watched her mother pack a suitcase and her father pack one too. Soon, Mrs. Kosciuszko came with a bundle of clothes, and a big yellow taxi drove up. Amy's mother and father hugged her and kissed her, and then they said, "Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye." Next morning, Amy wasn't feeling very glad. She didn't throw any rice at the milkman. And when she came down to breakfast, she just sat and didn't eat much at all. Mrs. Kosciuszko tried to cheer her up by playing the game of Goodbye Train. But Amy had to try quite hard to keep from crying. "I think," she said, "I'd rather play Go Fish." The mailman came and left without being sprinkled by a single confetti. And Amy's friends who were so tired of watching her wave handkerchiefs now found that Amy wanted to play Red Rover and even tag when she was it. And every morning and every night, Amy watched for her mother and father, although she knew the days were 2 more, then 1 more, then half a more, until her father and mother would come home. That night the taxi came again. There were Amy's mother and father, back home. "I'm glad you're here," Amy cried. "Goodbyes are nice, but now I know how much I like to say, hello, hello, hello. Hello." The end. Amy loves goodbyes.